Hi, today I want to talk to you about biblical boundary principles. Why is this important? Again, boundaries are super important. They're how we protect what is ours. They protect our person, they protect our emotions, they protect our bodies, they protect our resources, they protect us in relationships, what we let in, what we don't let into our lives. And there are many people, Christians especially, or people that have been raised in dysfunctional families that were not taught boundaries. I was not taught boundaries. My mom had very few boundaries with my very aggressive, abusive, alcoholic father. And so I wasn't taught them. I wondered for a long time in my marriage, is it okay for me to have boundaries? Now I know the answer is, of course it is. But it might be helpful for you to be clear in the foundation of what boundaries are based on, or the principles of boundaries. To know, one, they are definitely biblical, and two, they are obvious and reasonable and natural in our world that has order. So you don't even need the Bible to prove that boundaries are right and necessary. You can just look at the world, understand human nature, understand cause and effect, understand the way things work to say, oh my gosh, of course we have to have boundaries. Everything needs a boundary. Everything needs limits. People need limits. Relationships need limits. Employers need limit. There's laws that are limits, all kinds of things. Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, there are going to be six principles. The first one is choice. Choice is a boundary principle. Why? Because human beings have choice. Every person has choice. From the very beginning of creation, God said to Adam and Eve, you can have everything here except one thing. Don't eat from that tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why did God give them a choice to eat or not eat? Because he didn't want robots. He didn't want people that had to love him, had to obey him, had to follow him, had to do what he said. He wanted people to be able to choose. So they could choose their loyalty, choose their fidelity. We know they made the wrong choice. Okay, I'm not sure if you're watching this and you're not a Christian, you may say, I don't believe in all that, but keep listening because you're going to still find out that the boundary principles are logical. So choice. Everyone has choice, always has choice. People have choice to obey a rule or not, to obey something, to go along with what they're supposed to do. Even children have choice to do what you ask them to do, or to choose if they're going to eat or not, or choose if they're going to do their work or not, or choose if they're going to be nice or not. Come on, we all have choice. Okay, with choice comes consequences. Our consequences flow clearly from the choices that we make, right? Child doesn't bring the sweater in the morning, what happens? Child is cold. Child doesn't bring lunch, child is hungry. There are consequences to any choice that we make. Good consequences, not so good consequences. Galatians 6, 7, and 8 says, if you sow to the good, you get good. If you sow to the bad, you get bad, right? A lot of times it works directly like that. So if you work and you work hard, you're going to have measure of success. You're going to have an income. If you're lazy and you do nothing, you're going to have no income. So with choice comes consequences, right? Now, along with consequences comes accountability. Now, as far as God goes, we're all going to be accountable to God. There'll be a day that we'll stand before him and we'll have to give an account of our choices, what we did with our life, what we did on the days that we had on earth. Not sure exactly how that's going to work, but that is what Scripture claims, or Scripture, I shouldn't say claims, what Scripture says will happen to everyone. So that's accountability, but there's also accountability in every relationship we have in life. With our employer, we are accountable for how well we do our job. In our relationships, we are accountable for our actions to the person that's in relationship. If we don't do what we're supposed to do and we don't treat that person right, there's going to be something that we're going to have to account for. We're going to have to explain. We're going to have somebody upset with us. We're going to have that person wanting us to say why we did that or why we didn't do that. So there's accountability in relationships. So choice, consequences, and then you're accountable. And then the next one is stewardship. With what we have been given, okay, what our talents, our resources, our time, our energy, our money, our opportunities, we are stewards, which means caretakers over those things. And we are going to give God an accounting of what we did with that as stewards. We also are stewards of those things in our, say, in our marriage, how we spend our finances, how we spend our time. So we all have choices about how we do that. We all have choices about what we do with 24 hours a day, one day at a time for our entire lives with whatever energy, resources, and opportunity we have. So with boundaries comes choice, and the boundaries are having to do with limits. What you will do and not do is a boundary. And so when you're a steward, you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this with what I have. I'm not going to do this with what I have. So you're acting as a steward. You're deciding what to do with what you have. That is what stewardship is about. Then care. Care is about taking care of yourself, which you have to have boundaries for, self-care, right? How I care for myself and how I care for other people, which requires boundaries. Why is that a boundary principle? Because it's an essential part of life and relationships. It is, when you're talking about caring for myself versus taking care of others, where is that balance? Where is that limit? How much am I willing to do? How much am I willing to give up my own care of myself to care for other people? So care is a boundary principle. Now, I have a lot of videos that tell you that, explain to you that we have to balance that. Self-care is essential. Self-care is healthy. Caring for other people is important too. There has to be a balance, and there's a time to give up self-care for others, but it can't be extreme. It can't be all the time. So you have to look for that balance. The very last one is one that I really like, and that is influence. What we want to do in relationships is control. We want things to be as we think they should be. We want to make them the right way, especially when somebody's doing something that's hurtful to themselves, hurtful to us, damaging the relationship. But we do not have the right to control other people. Why? Because they have choice. Each person has the dignity to make their own choices and to suffer the consequences and to give an accounting for those choices and to choose how to steward their choices and choose how to balance care. We, by our limits, by what we're willing to do and not do, can influence people by what you're willing to watch, by what you're willing to allow in your home, by what you're willing to do with your money, by the limits that you set for what you tolerate in your own life. You can't control another person or make that person do something, but you absolutely 100% influence them. That's that principle of being salt and light, to where by that salt, that parable that Jesus talked about, where the salt, if salt loses its, flavoring, then it's no good. It's good for nothing, right? Because salt is a preservative, so it cleanses. And light, the light in darkness, by your influencing or the lines that you draw, you're influencing other people, but not controlling them, because you don't have that right. So I hope you can see, again, looking at them. So in case you're writing them down, choice, consequences, accountability, stewardship, care, and influence. Those are the principles upon which boundaries are formed, or set, I should say. Boundaries are biblical, boundaries are reasonable, boundaries are rational, boundaries are necessary, boundaries are a part of every single relationship that we have in our life. So I hope this makes sense to you. I hope you were able to see where maybe you need to kind of convince yourself or kind of put that into your mindset about how you need to have boundaries if you don't have them, because you desperately need them, especially in relationships where you have people who are difficult, because those are the people that are going to just push too far and do things that are not okay that you're really going to need boundaries for. But you need boundaries at work, you need boundaries in every relationship that you have. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that this has helped you, and I hope that you will watch more of my videos. Thank you for watching this video on Change My Relationship.